get ready to quit the build. The QTB crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno, Brad, and Nick.
Woo! What it do? You're listening to the QTB podcast. I'm your host, Bruno. And with me are the Brothers McMuffins. We got Nick, we got Brad, and we got a special guest. Nick, tell them about it.
Yes, that is correct. We have got the one and only Christian Hess, a.k.a. BarkWolfBacon. He is a former Game Press journalist covering Dragon Ball content. And this man, we got something very exciting to get into later because, Christian, if I understand this correctly, you are on the ultimate quest of quests to play through every Final Fantasy game. Is that correct?
That is correct. One mainline titles first in order, and then all of the sequels and spin-offs.
Okay.
Wow, that is
Wow.
ambitious.
And
What
you
a
sold your soul to who?
What a
How much?
commitment, yeah.
To live for that long? Amazing.
It's like that $20,000 Halo legendary, offer, right?
Someone completed that.
Yeah, they completed it. It's done.
It's done.
It's over.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Can you imagine?
Okay, well, so now we've got this. This is the new news. This is the new challenge.
It's the new All-Skull Challenge.
I'm ready
Yeah.
for it.
Exactly.
All you get
doing-
is a
it's
case of
doing
your
over
finger and
there.
a sore thumb, but it's worth it.
That's it. But nonetheless, here we are. Welcome to the podcast, Christian. We'll be getting into that a little bit later. And guys, we're going to be getting into Gamescom. I know normally we do our kind of pre-show, talk about what's going on. But really, that is the big conversation that's happening right now, Brad, right? I mean, it's when these things drop, and of course, when Jeff Keighley's involved, a lot of people love to kind of follow him with the big reveals because he's very much the face of game reveals right now and across multiple platforms, right?
Of course, and what a benefit for us that it just kicked off. So we're bringing you breaking news, breaking reactions to what we heard opening night, and I think it's going to be some good hot takes. We got Christian here to chime in as well. Let's get the ball rolling, Nick. Let's get it going.
I'm ready to go. And I mean, look, one of the things that we get with this is first of all, we haven't seen all of Give me a drum roll. I don't know how I'm going to time this out. I got a lot to say. And cut. But no, with Gamescom and like these big events that we have usually over the summer, it's a multi-day event, so there are more days, and we'll give kind of our takes on everything that we missed this time around on the next podcast. But the big ones, I think, did happen today, so we are going to kind of go over some of the surprise reveals, some things that we didn't see coming, and some things that we did. My thing is, we go down this list and cover every single thing? Absolutely, we could.
Yeah.
But like, there's
Let's
just,
do it.
it's. Let's just jump
Don't
right in.
Here we
tempt me,
go.
Frodo.
Now, first on the list is going to be one of your favorites, everyone's favorite, my personal favorite. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to go.
Oh, okay.
I had
Well,
nowhere
I'll tell
to
you
go.
I'll tell you where we can go in the meantime, and that is to our sponsors, the official sponsor of the QTB network. Winner, hit the button again, Bruno. Nice, there you go. So yeah, look, the Winner app, we already know they offer the best online claw machines in the world in their incredible game room. And if you, he's got that token right there. Bruno's got token. If you like collectibles, they've got a challenge for you. When you download the app, find the star, hit the collections tab. If you win the 6 Funko Pop collectibles they have in the challenge, you're going to get a free $20,000 token, or $20,000 token. Did I just say that?
20,000.
Cut it.
Can we rewind that?
Cut the podcast.
What? That's it.
Your
You
winners in
heard
chat
it.
are like, what?
Guys, I gotta go
We
play a
just
claw
what?
game right now.
Oh, that's how you
Man,
derail
is
an
the
ad read.
Tuesday.
That's right. 20,000 token bonus you're going to get if you collect all 6 Funko Pop collectibles in their collection. They had like a Leafeon in there. They had some Harry Potter collectibles, all sorts of Naruto stuff. So check it out and play today. As always, make any purchase and shipping is free for life. Token packages are as low as $4. So download the app today, hit play for free. Your first win is on the house. Link is in the live chat or in the show notes. Don't forget to use promo code Dale at pay.app.winnerwinner.com. He's going to give you a sweet deal with 30% bonus tokens. Thanks, as always, to our sponsors at Winner. Okay, $20,000. You got that?
Got it. That's what they're giving away.
Someone's going to open a ticket.
That's one heck of a claw game. That is one heck of a claw game.
I don't know how they're in business.
I got on a cruise one time, and they had a claw machine with just a bunch of money in it, and everyone crowded around it for the first bit, and I was like, it was just like rolls of. By the end of the cruise, somebody had it. I don't know who it was, but some guy ran out of there with a wad of ones, and it was probably not that much. It was probably like, here's $17.
Yeah, way less than you spent on the machine.
Dude, that's like a good 100%. Cheeseburger.
Right?
Totes worth.
He could have obviously eaten at the pay for restaurant on board the ship instead of the complimentary stuff that comes with it.
Really splurge it. That's how you know that's a treat yourself.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Treat yourself. That's it. All right. Well, guys, we have got a doozy of a story to get to here. Of course, our big story, the Gamescom recap. So, like I said before, I think what we'll kind of do is just kind of hit the big things that stood out to us as we kind of go around and kind of keep the discussion flowing. And let us know in chat as well if there was anything from the reveal that stood out to you, and we'll try to make sure to circle back around and hit those. Now, one of them I will point out that I had seen a little bit about, but it definitely stood out to me. Was the Dune? Oh, which one?
No, Goat Simulator 3?
Oh, man. I was going to get there.
I'm kidding.
I mean,
sorry, you just said we're opening up. I mean, come on.
Really buried the lead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like here's what you need to know about me is that I need like colorful stupidity to like get my attention for games trailers these days, because it seemed like half the time I was going through and I'm like, oh, okay, it's, drab environment, scary game number 76. Like what do you have to show me that everyone else hasn't already? So in that regard, I think the big thing is that, in order to stand out in these shows where it's just trailer after trailer, it's nonstop, like sensory overload. And a lot of them are games you haven't seen before. I think it's really important to stand out. So yeah, of course, Goat Simulator got my attention. But I will say one that I was not expecting was Dune Awakening. We got a new trailer. It is an open world MMO, which I was not expecting, set in the Dune universe. That IP is just red hot right now. The beta registration is now open for a chance to play the game early. I mean, this like brief snippet that we got of this guy just like kind of hanging out in this massive like worm thing just comes up from this abyss and is just like, it makes Monster Hunter look like, at Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like it was nothing. You think the massive creature he just latches onto. Here we go. I mean, you got to get excited about things like that, Bruno, right?
I am excited about a lot of things that are coming from Gamescom, okay? And stuff that comes up out of the ground and into the light is always something that a gamer wants to see, except for when you've spent 3 hours trying to build or beat an Elden Ring boss, and then you find out it's got like a second form or something like that. So
Millennia,
we don't have those types of teasers in there where, haha, gotcha, you're not done, right? We got more. One more
surprise
thing for you.
And here's the one shot.
Yeah,
move.
No, we don't want that. No, I like seeing a trailer that kind of gives you the what to expect in a game in a realistic manner. I mean, we've been so jaded in the past with these games that just try and sell us on something that's not what it really is, right? Like especially recently with E3 and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's good that we've finally taken a break from E3 and we've got something like Gamescom going on, because it allows people to kind of take a breath and say, hey, you know what? There's not the big stage. You don't have to do all of the fake marketing and fake demo stuff behind it. Let's give us something, let's give them something real to talk about, a real piece of game, right?
It's looking pretty meaty. I mean, what do you see in here, Brad? Is there? I mean, maybe Dune or maybe any other particular game. It's an open conversation. What do you see?
Well, I was to say with Dune, it's the right timing, right? We had the first part of the new dual or 2-part movie come out, like with Zendaya and Timothy. What is it? Timothy Chalamet. So this is the right time.
He's a person.
Like you said, the franchise is hot right now, right? So
he exists.
This is a really good timing to have this kind of open world survival MMO style game as a part of this franchise come out at this time. I think someone was smart to kind of planet at this time, and I think that the trailer looked incredible. So, like to Bruno's point, I hope it visually and the gameplay feels what you see in the trailer, because I feel like, to me, that's where the letdown is. You see something in the trailer, and then all of a sudden you get this kind of watered down visually and gameplay wise version of what you thought you saw cinematically in the trailer. So I don't know, Christian, what do you think?
Good point. Yeah,
Well, the Dune trailer. So quick show of hands, who's read Dune?
Wasn't me.
I've only watched the movies, the old one and the first part of the.
Okay, because Serena in chat called out anyone looking forward to the game that's read the book. So it's a really interesting to hear your guys' take on that trailer, because I, for one, like immediately with the monologue that fear is the mind killer, like that's like the Dune, like that's the quote, right? So like immediately the minute you said
straight out of the gate,
like that's the quote. So as soon as they said it, like before it had even zoomed away from his canvasy cloak, I was like, it's a Dune game. Here's my concerns, though. Survival MMOs, as a general rule of thumb, really rough genre. I mean, you're talking about games that tend to like really kind of dovetail into like PvP, big guild bullying kind of stuff. Like Conan had this problem. Like these games kind of have a hard time landing. Look at New World. That's a survival MMO. And so I'm hoping I want one to work. I want Dune to be the IP to make it work. My other concern, though, is that, I mean, like, what's the main thing about Dune, literally in the title of the game and the IP? It's a giant desert. So it's not like we're going to have a lot of visual, like, there's not going to be different biomes. You're on Arrakis.
You're going to get lost.
Right. The planet's whole thing is that it's a desert.
Yeah.
So, like, I got some concerns.
Which is exactly why I said it's so great when you see them come from the underground to the above ground, because then you're like,
oh my God. It's a boulder.
It's
a boulder.
So
wow, this really brightened up my deserty days.
I love Dune as an IP. I love the franchise. I hope it's good. The trailer was very well done from like a Dune fan standpoint. It was very like fan goosebumpy for Dune. So it's got the right energy. It's just a hard genre.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Conan, because Funcom created it wasn't the last one, the Barbarian, whatever it was, but there was an Age of Conan, I think it was called. Yeah, they did that MMO, and it very much had that vibe of like, you know, it's kind of a pay to win in certain ways, and like you can bully your way into supremacy on a server. So we'll see. I mean, you know, these are a lot of buzzwords, and it seems like the term MMO is interpreted very differently than it used to be. You know, I think of like Phantasy Star Online, that you know, their new overhaul of the game is technically an MMO, but really it's more just like of a lobbied like online RPG than anything else. So, you know, the less MMO that it is, I think the better off we are. And my thing is, like, if you're going to show a trailer where there's just this massive creature that obviously this guy's getting into combat with, you know, he's going to get out the hooks and just kind of latch on. Like, if you're going to go the Monster Hunter route, go the Monster Hunter route. But like, you can't do that with an MMO. It can't be done.
So here's the thing. You haven't read or watched Dune, so you may not know this. He's not fighting it. He's writing it. Those are those hooks. They're
like in Beetlejuice.
Yeah. So those hooks, like the Sandworm, like they're the Shai Halud in the Dune universe. When the Sandworm comes up and eats the spice crawler, like that's interesting in itself. So I'm assuming there's going to be some resource like collection, because the spice crawlers, like that's what they do, right? So spice has to be this whole thing. But like, so the worm passes him, and the whole thing about the Fremen, the people in the books that they can like, and he had the blue eyes, which is like the Fremen thing. Those are just like big ice picks. So when the worm passes them, they like bury them in between the worm's plating and just ride him. So that could be cool in a game, like just a dude worm surfing,
riding a worm.
That's your fast travel. Oh, there goes Jerry.
There goes Jerry on the worm.
Is that a new worm?
There goes Jerry. Is that Hank? Is that Hank, the worm out there? Man, he's getting some play these days.
The worm or the person? Yeah.
Oh, I see that going downhill real fast. Check out Hank's worm. Oh my gosh, look at the size of that one.
I'd rather not.
Oh, Hank has the legendary worm. Oh, that's a rare drop. Exactly, Little John.
All right, prediction $10.
But
there will be a
Christian,
pre-order
I think all of your points are really valid. I mean, I think the game type really puts itself in a big unknown, right? A big question mark, and you know, so I think we try to stay on the side of optimism here. The trailer to me looked awesome, and I'm hoping. I'm hoping it bucks the trend, right? As to your point, and we get a little bit something more enjoyable or kind of bucks the trend of the style here with Dune Awakening. So, you know, one that got me excited, Nick, and there's a couple actually, but I think it's nice to see another title coming to this franchise is the new, Borderlands, new Tales from the Borderlands trailer that came out. You know, that franchise is so, it's got such that that trailer had that classic comedy that you get from those games. And I really think that's going to be a fun one that people can jump into in October. It comes out in a couple months. So I don't know. What did you guys think about that trailer?
I'll tell you one thing, and that is it's always good when a company realizes that, there are legacy developers and story writers that do it better, or at least are more well received, right? Like if you want to get public sentiment on your side, bring them back, right? And that's one of the things that they did was that the Telltale series brought back some of the original kind of Gearbox people that worked on some of the earlier narratives for Borderlands to come back and do these stories. So that's very important because I know that the Telltale concept of games kind of went off the rails there for a while. I know they had plans to make games left and right across a number of series. That was what the werewolf thing they did, among other things. And there was at one point they had almost like a video game crash style of 80 whatever it was style meltdown where there was just too many games being made all at once in that narrative style genre, right? You had Batman ones, you had Borderlands ones. It was just everything.
I forgot there was.
And it seemed Christian, were you surprised by this reveal? I know there was a leak, but did you think that Telltale would be able to find their footing again?
No, because I'll be real. I was kind of the last thing I really remember notable from them was that flood of games where I was like, I mean, those are really kind of niche games anyway. They're really fun, but they're not a type of game that I would marathon or play back to back. It's a very particular type of game. It's almost a more kind of not quiet. I mean, there's action in those games, but it's not the kind of Dark Souls button mashing, skill based action, right? So. They're inherently more chill, and that's both a great thing about them, and it's also it can be kind of when there's a flood of them and you have to pick, I remember that time when there was I felt like everything was a Telltale game. But I will say I'm excited for new Tales from the Borderlands. I really liked Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It really sort of energized the franchise for me. I'd kind of lost my love and my kind of lost the sugary flavor. It was no more serotonin, but now with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands it came back, so I'm really excited for this. I'm hoping it looks as good as the trailer was, because the trailer I thought hit all the right notes.
Yeah, I mean it's the official reveal trailer here for it, and I think the leak happened a little too early, so they kind of had to be like, hey, it got leaked, but here's what we got. I mean, what are you seeing here, Bruno? Do you think? I think it's debatable right now that the Borderlands formula is kind of played up in terms of that wacky parody, over the top style comedy where there's no valley, it's all peaks in terms of the comedy and kind of in your face style, both animations and jokes wise, right? Do you think that this can possibly be a segue into more Borderlands content, or do you think they're gonna the well's gonna dry up here?
I think the problem when you pull from the past is you get what you've done in the past, right? And I think that's a problem with a lot of these developers. And we need to go back to our roots. And it's I've been playing some of the games. I recently downloaded RetroArch on my PC, and have been playing some N64 emulators on there, and just seeing some of the games. A lot of them were rough. We look through them. We look at them through rose-colored glasses and whatnot because that's what we had at the time. We didn't really have anything else to compare it to, and we've grown a lot. And I think that's one of the problems that we're seeing with Saints Row right now is the fact that old formula just didn't really translate to next-gen gaming. And so I think that there's always a spot to go back and say, let's grab some of these writers and people that worked on the original because they might have something unique to bring to the table. But if we're talking about like comedic first person shooters, I'm way more interested in High on Life. Isn't that what it's called? The new one by Rick,
yes.
The Rick and
Justin
Morty
Roiland.
thing?
Yes.
Yes.
High on
that
Life,
seems
dude.
Way more interesting. Yes, right?
Squanch.
Now that seems interesting. That's something that I want, that's the banter that I'm looking for in a game. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Borderlands series is going to be wrapped around a very specific formula that it follows and a very specific way it brings about their characters, but similar to Fortnite Bound by No Rules, High on Life is taking that same approach too, with animated weaponry, right? That is talking to you. What do they call that in animation?
Animated is the term.
Anthropomorphic
sentient
weapons. Yeah,
sentient weaponry. Yeah.
That is just incredibly hilarious and really opens the door for a very, very funny experience. Now, I will say in the one gameplay that I did see of High on Life, or the trailer that they recently released, there was a lot of back and forth. And so 8 hours of that back and forth might be a little much, but done in the right way, I can see how that is going to completely surpass Borderlands in terms of just overall comedic content that you get from a game, right?
Here's my thing, Brad. I'm kind of curious to get your take on this, because I have to wonder if like there is a point of satiation, right? Because if you think about the Rick and Morty style of comedy, right? It is non-stop, like from start to finish. It's like Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, where like if you blink, you're going to miss 3 jokes. And that's fine. I mean, I get the style. But, when I was watching this boss fight, we already knew you're going to have the talking guns, right? But then they're showing like, okay, here's a boss battle where like your weapons are talking to you as a character and talking to the boss as well. So they're like on top of having this boss fight where you need to like pay attention to mechanics. Now there's this hilarious dialogue that's happening alongside. I'm sorry, the knife.
The knife got me.
Oh,
the knife was
he really
hilarious.
wanted to cut someone. Yeah. But my thing is like, what about your second and third playthrough? Like what happens when you reach a point where maybe it's getting to be a little bit too much? Where like, is there going to be a mute button on this gun, or is it just going to be that high level of like Adult Swim style humor where it's like I said before, there's no valleys, there's only peaks, and so it's just constantly giving you this overload. Where maybe the second time through now you're doing this boss battle, or maybe you died once and you got to do it again, and you're getting these same dialogue lines. And you're like, okay, I'm already sick.
Well,
of
I guess
this.
it depends.
Do you
Are
think
there multiple
there's
dialogue lines?
That's what we don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. You go ahead, Christian. The floor is yours.
No,
you read my
that was
mind.
just my point. Like, is I think I agree with you. Like, that's a terrifying thought. Like, if I die 15 times to that boss because I have crap platforming skills, and which I do, and I'm hearing the knife's monologue for the 16th time. It's like what was the Destiny quote where it's like, I want your 10th better devils to feel as good as your 9th better devils. Like, is the 10th time hearing the knife monologue as funny as the 9th time? Probably not. And so I would have that is a concern. I didn't think about it until you said it, and now I'm like, oh no, that's
you might get a lot of it.
And that's my point, right? That's 8 hours, right? That 8 hours of constant back and forth. It was very, very funny. Don't get me wrong. Hilarious. I'm looking forward to it. But like you said, if it's that constant peak, it's kind of like, okay, we need to like bring it down just a notch, to have a moment of peace. And I'm always looking for extra dialogue. And I think you're right. As long as there are multiple lines of dialogue, they did it with Halo. Right? I mean, there was the "I would have been your daddy" skull that actually, gave rarer bits of dialogue throughout the game. Super fun to go and sneak up on grunts and hear what they had to say, when no one was listening. But I think that there is a lot of potential for something like this. And you're right. That in and of itself kind of dictates the replay value of a game. Are you going to get multiple lines of dialogue? If so, it's worth playing again. If not, then maybe it might be annoying that second, third time through. You know, maybe we go back and do something where if you beat it on the harder levels, you get extra bits of dialogue or something. I don't know. There's a million ways that developers can kind of entice gamers with that replay value, cheat codes aside. But I'm looking forward to this game merely for the comedic value that it provides. Even if I don't end up getting it, like, I know it's going to be so much fun to watch on Twitch. So like, this is just like really essentially, free content for everyone, free entertainment. So
well, it's day one.
Markiplier is going to have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
And wouldn't it be great if the dialogue was like, and I don't think it will be this way, but like if it was intuitive. So if it knew it was your 10th time, it'd be like, bro, you suck. Like, like
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like, we've been trying 10 times in a row. You've died 10 times and we still can't kill it. Like, can we get it together? Like, that would be incredible. But I know that's probably not the reality, but that would be the next level, right? I mean, like, come on, we're on the 10th level. We're 10th try here. Come on.
You need to pause and open the wiki.
If you get the dialogue that punishes you for being bad at the game. Like, I think there's potential. Like, I do have to wonder. I remember there was a part in Cyberpunk 2077 where it was a side mission where you could pick up a gun, and that was the whole thing. It had like a little Clippy style like holograph that pops up at the top. And it was very funny at first, and it was like, oh, hey, how do you want me programmed? Like, he would make like, amusing anecdotes about the person that you just obliterated. And then over time, I'm like, okay, well, once I heard the same thing like 10 or 11 times, like, even though you're a really good gun, unfortunately, I'm going to be scrapping you for parts because I just don't want to hear it anymore. Like, sometimes you just want to have everyone shut up and just play a video game, right?
I hope when you scrap guns in High on Life, though, that it goes through like, no,
they talk back to you. Yeah.
Well, so
it's like the companion cube from
don't do it.
So the other thing that might fix that though for them is like if what we've seen from multiple trailers is that each gun has its own personality, and so that what we saw today was the conversation between the knife and the pistol and the boss and the player, right? So, but there's a potential that you could play through that again, and if you use the knife and a shotgun or like another gun. That could feel very different. Like so it depends. Like maybe those are the only guns you have access to during that boss fight, but there's a chance that the banter changes, which would maybe help alleviate some of that problem.
And Justin Roiland is so great at just getting in the booth and just ad-libbing whatever comes to his mind. I mean, that's essentially what the interdimensional cable episodes are of Rick and Morty, which if you haven't seen any Rick and Morty episodes, just watch one of the interdimensional cable episodes. They are hilarious. It's basically them flipping through channels, coming across alien TVs. Good. There's like a game show called Man vs. Car, and that's it. Just a man in a car.
That's it. That's the concept.
So I really think that if there's anyone to come up with, a million lines of dialogue, it's Justin Roiland. Like, it's going to be different with the way he stutters, how many times he delivers the line. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be a fun one. And like I said, I think the clips that we're going to get from these are going to be worth it. It's just going to be lots of content for us to scroll through. So great on you.
A lot of scrolling.
Great on you, all you content creators out there.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll hand it over to you, Bruno. What else did you kind of pop there when you were heading through this very, very lengthy lineup? What, 2 hours or so of just nonstop reveals?
Well, I really liked seeing Sonic Frontiers. We got to see a little bit of that, and it was a lot more than the initial Green Hill Zone quote unquote that we got. So I'm excited.
Breath of the Wild. Sonic.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm really interested in that. It looks really interesting. They did kind of brighten up some of the levels there, and it looks like something that will be interesting to play. Now this is, getting to a point where I'm wondering, what is the best platform to pick this up on, and I think I'm gonna have to get it for Xbox just because of the controller experience that Xbox has. And speaking of controller experience, there was even a PlayStation 5 reveal on a new controller, which I also caught my attention. So Sonic Frontiers and that new PS5 controller. Now I don't own a PS5, and everyone knows that I'm. The scalpers do. We all know that. And I'm very much an Xbox fanboy, but I'm getting more into PC gaming, and I see these controllers as PC controllers as well, right? There's opportunity for these to be played outside of the traditional console, like that, what it's geared towards. So now, will you go out and buy a PS5 controller to play everything online? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's great to see something like that. If you're a PlayStation owner or fanboy, you gotta be excited about the controller, right?
I'm excited about the controller. Sonic Frontiers, though, and once again, as the resident jaded Sonic fan, I'm going to go ahead and just play this for you. Wait for it.
Waiting.
Oh, it's not going to play. I pushed the button. We broke the soundboard. That's okay. I was going to play the Sonic Frontiers thing where I talk about it being...
There it is.
I'm waiting.
The Jeopardy theme. Thanks, Riverside. Oh, man. No, Sonic Frontiers is still looking mid, man. Okay? I don't... Some people were like, oh, this is what you should have shown first. I'm like, what did they show us here that we didn't already not see? Like, there's very little content
new
here.
Worlds, new gameplay, new swishy swirly things.
There were swishies. There were big bosses. There was some kind of villain, and like I'm still trying to figure it out, man.
All they showed us in the first trailer was literally like him running in an open damn field with nothing around, and to like the edge of oblivion, and you're like, well, that's a big map of nothing. And now we actually got at least some levels where he did a loop-de-loop at one point, So I need at least know there's at least one in there. There's at least one. I'm ready for it. I think we can go with this.
Look, I'm sure the flashback stages, or whether the cyberspace levels, whatever they're calling it, will be kind of more your traditional Sonic gameplay. I'm afraid we're going to get the problem we had with Saints Row, which is that there's too much open world and not enough things populating it to make it feel like it was worth it. I think a lot of open world games in 2022 are going backwards in that there's just not enough development time in the current AAA cycle, or as long as it takes to make these games, to really put out something high quality. And I know Sega does not have the workforce it used to. So, I mean, time will tell. Time will tell. But they are a far cry from their heyday. I will say the controller looks nice, and I'm glad that they are following and I hate to say it, but in Xbox's footsteps, because the Elite controller, all of those features. Thank you. I have mine upstairs. Like, every feature I saw there, I'm like, oh, there's the little toggle for the hair triggers there on the sides, and of course the interchangeable joysticks. Like, I mean, we all have Xboxes here in this channel, obviously. So I'll ask you, Brad. When you saw that, do you think it's going to be a game changer? I mean, the PS5 is already known for a very high quality DualSense controller.
I think it's just it's when you see something, that mimicry is one of the highest forms of flattery, right? Like when you see something, don't try to reinvent the wheel, kind of take from it and make it in your own inspiration. I think you're seeing that now. Don't
plagiarize.
There you go. So, I think that's an indirect way of showing that there are fans who prefer the Elite controller and the style of which that plays versus the PlayStation controller. I've always leaned Xbox as well. Not to say that PlayStation doesn't have a suitable controller, but I mean, what you get with that is top notch. So I think it's just a recognition that there's players out there on the PlayStation who want something a little bit different, and they're now offering that. And I think that's going to really do well for them. I think it's going to sell well. I think you rarely see a piece of accessory hardware come out that I think will be a big seller, and this might be one for PlayStation.
And another thing I think too, I think we're finally starting to move towards the idea that back buttons and additional buttons at the top here are really beneficial in a lot of games, especially if you can customize them. Okay, like this is the Wolverine. I'm using the Wolverine Ultimate Edition or whatever it is, the Wolverine V2 from Razer, and I'm a big proponent of these. I had the Elite controller. I went through 2 of them. They had a very, very poor shoulder button design, but clearly
you just pressed too dang hard.
No, the
original one was bad.
It was hanging on this very, very flimsy fringe of a piece of plastic, and over time pressing down on that LB button just wore it down and would eventually break it. But with these, I mean, I love, and I basically I've told everyone, like, if you want to get better at your first person shooters, if you want to get better at, games where you have to use 2 joysticks like this to move around, get something with paddles on the back. There's a lot of different options now, and the third-party controllers like Razer aren't like the Mad Catz controllers we had back in the day, right? You know what I'm talking about?
We throw it back to Mad Catz like once every other episode.
They took my allowance money as a kid on more than one occasion.
But Bruno, you're right. I think it also opens the door that we're acknowledging that we don't need to be told, everyone shouldn't be told they have to play the game the same way. Controller customization allows people to really play it the way that they feel comfortable holding a controller. And having that customization allows folks to really play it in a way that they feel is the best way they can play it. So I'm with you there. Having customization, moving towards something more universal that has that customization opens the door to a bigger demographic. People will feel more comfortable saying, oh, I want to move that to the back, to a back paddle or something like that. No, I want to move this here. Everyone holds their controller slightly differently. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. What do you think, Christian?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction too. Like, so and I know Clara from Replay is like this too. We play every PC game with a controller. I'm a monster, I know. I have a beautiful mechanical keyboard, and I play every game on my PC with a controller.
Welcome.
I'm with you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm with you.
We're here.
Yep.
We're fans. Bravo.
I'm a fan of it.
And I think these controllers, like, so I really like more options. I think the DualSense is a fantastic piece of technology with the adaptive triggers. Like, it's a beautiful controller. It's actually, I think, it's the one thing this generation that I think Sony really like pushed the gamut on and like really moved the whole experience forward. Like, the DualSense is a gorgeous piece of technology. So I think making that better by adding customization, and then the other thing that one of the reasons the Xbox Elite controller is so popular too is that there are people that it enables to play games because of what you're able to customize on it from a capability
accessibility
perspective. That not everybody can, and Xbox has done a really fantastic job with accessibility.
Oh yeah,
in
leading
peripherals. Yeah, I mean, they're cutting edge, and so I love to see Sony start to maybe dabble in some of this, because I really do love Sony, and I think that the accessibility to games is huge. So I think it's fantastic. I was like, at first when they showed the controller, I was like, that's a weird thing to show a trailer for, and then it dawned on me. I was like, oh, and so it's huge, and I think it's going to be a fantastic piece of tech.
At least, unlike the car they revealed, it's something that you may actually buy.
You don't want the Pokemon Ace Man, the mini Ace Man? Come on.
I skipped that
What,
so
you guys
fast.
don't have car
I was
loans?
just like, I said out loud, I'm like, why are we seeing this? No one is going to buy. It's such a vanity project. Anyway, what I was going to say is, speaking of amazing customization, there's a great comment from Serena in chat about the upcoming game here from former Subnautica developer Unknown Worlds. Now, I'm going to pass this over to you, Christian, because I know you're a fan of author Brandon Sanderson, a.k.a. Brando Sando, who is creating this brand new game. Unknown Worlds has pivoted to all sorts of different games. I remember back in the heyday of Half-Life mods when they dabbled in, was it Natural Selection, which is to this day one of my favorite first-person shooters of all time, hybrid FPS and RTS. And then, of course, they made Subnautica, and now they're making Moonbreaker. Now, I can see from your background there that you are well-versed in the art of tabletop foo. So we're talking about a a tabletop style game where not only can you control the pieces and customize your party, but the obvious thing of how did they not think of this sooner is being able to paint your pieces. What are you seeing here, man? Are you excited?
I think done correctly, this is going to be a whole thing because there's a ton of angles for this game to talk about. Like the first one, I mean, you have Brandon Sanderson's involvement, who is easily one of the most prolific authors of our time. I mean, I'm a fanboy, I'm slightly biased, but we're talking about the dude who finished Wheel of Time. Like, this is a guy who finished one of the biggest fantasy series ever made, and the dude, like, this is a guy who
small flex
like,
in the video.
This is the chops of this guy, and I'll be honest, I was a little sad it wasn't like one of Sanderson's books being converted because he's got some fantastic material to make a game out of. But then when they started showing this, it's clearly a passion project. This is a game by people who love tabletop games for people who love tabletop games. When he made the comment that everything in the game was painted in the in-game painting tool, like that's fascinating. So you have this whole aspect of you could attract Brandon Sanderson fans. You've got the classic tabletop wargaming fans like the Warhammer crowd and the BattleTech crowd coming in and could be really excited by this. But then there's the fact that it looks like it's a 1v1 battler. So there's an entire competitive potential here too. So I'm really excited about it. I loved the vibe, and I just think, assuming it's not just like poorly put together, I think it's going to be just a really cool experience that there is no competition in that space digitally.
So unique. It really is. I mean, what are you thinking, Bruno? Like, if I'm looking at this game right now, like, I think I'm going to spend way more time just painting the figurines than actually playing the game, because that's always been a fantasy of mine, and like being able to have the time for that kind of hobby. Now they're offering it to me in video game form.
I mean,
Sign me up.
There's a huge like just collection of people that love tabletop games, and I remember talking about this several years ago about how the traditional tabletop game, the ones that all the Sorries and the Monopolies and stuff, we're going by the wayside of those mass produced, and what's coming up are these more niche tabletop games and the crossover with things like AR and video games. So I'm with you. Like, it's about time. It's about time that we've kind of, merged the two in an interesting way. And you're right, in terms of painting, that's something that people just generally do. Like, some people are just into painting these small figurines and do a fantastic job of it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm scrolling through Facebook and then I get roped into some guy 3D printing his own figure and then painting it in detail. I'm like, what the heck? Like, holy crap. Like, so I think that and not only that, like you said, when you showcase something that is within the game's engine and you're saying this was created within the game, this wasn't something that we mapped, that we used on an outside CAD program, this is something that we did in the game, and you can do it too. We've built the tools for you. That's what we want. That's how creations and games survive. I think about something like the Forge community with Halo, and how desperate the Halo community is to get Forge out into the public's hands, because that is going to help save a dying game. And I think when you give players the ability to kind of customize right from the start, regardless of what it is, whether it's, painting, we were talking about accessibility earlier, that is the future of gaming. And when you've got something like PC that gives you all of these, a plethora of ways to customize it, and then you jump to console and it's like, we added an FOV slider, and then there's just like applause from everyone, like,
you've got a button for that. There it is.
We did
and
it!
broke 3 other things.
We did it!
We did.
FOV slider! No.
All right, 3-hour update.
Right.
Yeah.
For what? For what?
Servers are down.
I'm all for the customization. I love that. I want to see all this. Hope they make a way for you to trade with other people, or put them on a shop of your own, to have your own shop. I think that would be really cool to be able to go on and buy other people's digitally created work, similar to like Forza. You can go on there and download other liveries that people have created. So as long as they connect it with the community and add that customization and allow other people to take advantage of other people's artistry, because we know not everybody's an artist. Not everybody's going to take the time to painstakingly get in there, but kudos to you if you do, right? It's there. Like, you could do it.
Definitely. Well, we've been kind of ping-ponging around this presentation, kind of hitting on stuff that stood out for us. Brad, was there anything else that really stood out for you when you were going through this?
Kind of looking at this one more time, I think the only other thing that seemed intriguing to me was the Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy.
I'm a diehard Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter Legacy looks like the game that I've been waiting for, that I really get to like dive into the universe more than what I've gotten before. And it seems like we'll be tempted into you wanting to use dark magic in this storyline, and I'm here for it. So
can you believe that using dark magic backfires? I would have never known.
For who? Prove it.
Well, okay, I guess we need a plot, we need shenanigans to get into tonight on Harry Potter.
So definitely we'll be checking that out when that drops. And I think the other one that kind of had me not perplexed, but I want to see more, is there was a very brief trailer for that Tortuga, A Pirate's Tale.
Yeah. And
so I'm curious to get your guys' reaction. I know the last pirate game that I can think of is Sea of Thieves, and that's obviously been fun in its own way. But I don't know. Where do you think this game's going? What do you think's it gonna be? Like, pirate games, I feel like go one of two ways.
And like I was gonna say Skull and Bones, but I'll get to that in a second. Like, Sea of Thieves has already done it so well that it's just really hard for someone else to come in and try and stake their claim. Skull and Bones, which was in production before Sea of Thieves, is just now getting around to coming out, and what people are seeing so far, it's going to be a pretty poor showing at launch. Time will tell, but Ubisoft is behind it, so flip a coin and then flip it again if it doesn't come up the right way. All I'm saying is, like, it's just tough to see these types of games, because with a pirate style sim or fantasy kind of game of, hey, have your own ship, there's only so many things you can show us that we haven't seen before. So I'm not sure that I really. It was one of those games, like many on there, Brad, where it just kind of zoomed on by, and I'm like,
It looked like a game trailer.
What was it called again? There it is. That's what you need. When they played that in Kingdom Hearts 2, I'm like, now we're pirating.
Give it to me.
Come on, Johnny.
Let's pirate it out.
I think they go there. They go to Tortuga in one of those movies, right?
They do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There you go. He's just gonna keep going. One copyright strike wasn't enough.
I don't know what that is.
What is a copyright strike?
It's nothing. Don't worry. We'll hit it in post. Okay, so fair enough. Yeah, that was it just depends on what. Like I said, everyone is going to have different tastes in these types of presentations. There's such a wide gambit of style and presentation that there's really something for everybody. What about you, Christian? Was there anything on the list there that popped?
So, yeah, I'm really excited about the Harry Potter game. I think this was a really interesting trailer to show. There's always been kind of hints on the trailers we've had that there was going to be some darker elements from the series, which is always fun to explore. But the whole fact that this trailer was literally about casting Crucio was really like, okay, you had my interest. Now you have my attention. Like, that was really cool. But outside of Harry Potter, I am really excited for Honkai Star Rail.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the new game from the guys that made Genshin Impact.
Right, and there was something that he said right before that came on that hasn't been mentioned anywhere else to my knowledge, that it's a turn-based game.
Yes.
And when he said that, I was like, what? Because, like, that, I expected Genshin on space trains, which I'm here for. Like, I'm here. It's hard to miss that.
Put it in
those
space.
Words in that order were good. But, like, when he said it was turn-based, I was like, okay. Now we got space trains turn-based. So I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to learn more about that game. I do like Genshin. I even like Tower of Fantasy, which is like Diet Genshin. People are going to find me in her
Zero.
for saying that.
Genshin with half the calories.
Yeah, Genshin
right.
Zero. But
Nice.
it looks cool, and I'm pretty stoked for its aesthetic. And space trains are just cool.
You
Sure.
can't go wrong. Trains anywhere the trains aren't supposed to be. It's like, oh, hey, I'm in.
Underwater trains.
Why does it
next.
need to be on rails? Don't know, but exactly. Oh man.
That was my
What about
train
you,
horn.
Bruno? Anything else on the list there that stood out to you?
I mean, obviously, Nick, we're still waiting on more updates from Halo. That's it. We just want to get Halo into a playable state, okay?
need it.
Everybody wants it to succeed. We don't want to see it fail, but obviously, there's a lot left to be desired. And so I think that, the biggest thing that I really took away from a lot of this was the immediacy of a lot of these releases, just how quickly they're coming up. And, we talked about this with Nintendo Direct and how much more exciting it is to have such a shorter window of time than to say, coming soon at the, because nothing makes a gamer more upset than to get to the end of a trailer and not have a release date. Like for
Elder
the thing
Scrolls
you're most
6.
looking. Yeah, exactly. Like we're all
And it's you,
waiting.
Todd Howard.
Todd isn't looking back. Trust me. That guy will not make direct eye contact with
No.
anybody.
Exactly. So, I think that this is really an opportunity, especially, post pandemic, whatever you want to, if that's a thing, that, we really look into how we're communicating with the player base. I think that there's so many ways that you can connect now, via social media, that, kind of taking your time out and addressing one or two issues is definitely going to draw some attention if it's not done in the right light, if you've got a crap game. But when you set expectations right from the get-go that this is coming up, and it'll be available, very soon without much hesitation, just like Nintendo does, it's going to have more of an impact, especially on me, somebody who, forgets in 6 months what the hell they talked about at E3, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was super excited for that game. No, I want constant updates. And if you don't have anything to say, then don't give me a flashy trailer, right?
Yes.
Just keep working.
And definitely
Keep
don't
working.
give me a
It's wasting
screenshot
time.
of concept art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
You're not fooling anybody.
And that's a lot of what, and I hate to keep bringing up beating a dead horse, but we'll continue to do it, and that's exactly what Halo's done. They've given us these screenshots, and thank goodness for the content creators out there who have access to Forge and are showing us what's capable in that game, because the community is saving the game, not the developers. And I think that is becoming a trend that we're seeing in today's age, with things like Grand Theft Auto getting an update, to make the game faster, essentially because of some guys, diligence, right? And I think that that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing gamers take ownership of these things. And that's what's exciting when you've got a company that communicates with you. Ideally, this is when things are coming out. Gamers can get behind that and rally, and you've got a great community, just like we have here at Quit the Bill. Nick, hit it with it.
What? Oh, okay. I guess that's our transition. We should say a thank you, by the way, to our Patreon supporters, because they're keeping the lights on.
Hey!
Thanks to our QTB and Fuego supporters, Epic Capture Productions, Matt.Bat, and Alexa, and our QTB Plus supporters, Nick, The Dudist Monk, Indie Gamiacs, Alan Abadessa, Mr. Grove Games, The Intergalactic Pinecone, Fluffy Bunny, and Kawaii Potato. It's getting harder to get all that in one breath, but I'm still making it happen. Woo! And if you want to join the list and make
That's
my
what she
job
said.
even harder with the longest username possible, tiers start as low as $2 a month, $5 tier Patreon up, you get a shout out on every podcast. And of course, you get that exclusive merch you can't get anywhere else, baked into the price. You also get access to our QTB Nostalgia Vault. We have a ton of backlog of just us talking about the games and fun of yesteryear and present. This month, we're talking about all your favorite arcade hits, arcade memories of past and present. Maybe you walked into a Dave & Buster's recently and we want to talk about it, okay? That's the show. That's the format. What else do you want? Okay, go check it out. Patreon.com/quitthebuild. That being said,
I know what I want, Nick.
What do you want?
Well, I was gonna say I want to get to our next topic. We gotta talk to our guests. We gotta hear about.
We do.
It.
Yeah. So
bring us home.
One thing I'll say, guys, is that I'm kind of the resident JRPG guy or just RPG guy, and that's not saying much because I was just talking to Christian earlier. I haven't played any of the Persona games. My Final Fantasy foo is very much hit or miss as to what I've actually played or had the patience to beat. So I'm very excited because I think Christian is doing a very important public service to those that are just severely intimidated by the world of Final Fantasy, which is to play it all and kind of talk about it in one sitting.
That's
so
me.
Yeah, definitely you. So Christian, tell us more about this venture, your background with RPGs and what led you to do this thing and what is the thing?
Yeah, so what we're talking about, I have a blog called A Lifetime of Save Data, shameless plug, and that blog. I used to write for Game Press and I hadn't written for a long time, and I kind of decided that I wanted to write about what I loved again. And I wanted to do it on my own terms instead of writing about any one particular topic. So, but I had a hard time kind of figuring out what I wanted to write about. I knew I wanted to write about gaming, but there's so many ways to approach that. And actually what inspired me was there's a podcast called Potterless. So it's kind of funny that Harry Potter's been a topic tonight. But there's a podcast called Potterless that my wife listens to. And it's basically a 30-year-old man who's never watched the movies or read Harry Potter, reading the books for the first time and having discussions with big people in the Harry Potter fan community about it. And so I've absorbed it. She'll put it on when she's cooking or when, whatever. And I'll just absorb it, in the background. And I thought it was just a really novel idea. So that finally dawned on me. I was like, somebody should do that for some of these long running game franchises, and then it dawned on me too, you have never played all the Final Fantasy games. My first Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy 13, which if you say that to a real, I say real in quotations. If you say that to a Final Fantasy fan, people are like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's I loved it, but I had no context. Right. So that was my first kind of foray into Final Fantasy. I ended up playing 15 and I've played 14 and I was finding you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back. I'm going to play through each of these games in release order. Thank God for the pixel remasters. And I'm going to write about them as I do it. I'm going to write about the context of the industry at the time, the people who became legends at Square and other, look at Chrono Trigger. There's so many other projects that came out of that time. And it's been really interesting. So that's kind of the background of why I'm doing it. But so my experience with RPGs, like I said, my first Final Fantasy was 13, but my first RPG was Pokemon Yellow.
Oh, yeah. Classic. That's what we want to hear.
That's a good answer.
And so,
that's everyone's favorite.
I love crunchy games. I'm a tabletop guy, like we talked about earlier. So I tend to lean towards games that have a lot more number crunching or and there's nothing more over-designed than a JRPG. And so there's just something really satisfying about these ridiculous, overly designed systems. And cracking them open and making them work for you to overcome challenges. But it's been fun. I'm on. So I just posted the article for Final Fantasy VI a couple days ago, but I'm actually on Final Fantasy X. I'm only writing about an article a week, but I'm actually on Final Fantasy X right now. So I'm a little bit of a lead on the site. But
okay,
man. And you're starting to get into the narrative heavy games, or at least before it was just dialogue boxes that you could kind of power through. But now you've got the I did a jingle about Final Fantasy X about how you cannot skip those cutscenes no matter how many times you've seen them or how cringy they are.
Titus's laugh.
So you're just kind of the laugh, man. The laugh. It's the laugh heard around the world. I have to wonder What's your perspective been? Because I think very few people can lay claim to having played that many Final Fantasy games in such a short span of time. You've already moved into the 3D realm, and soon you're going to be heading into the transition, right, from turn-based to real time for the combat. Like, what's your journey been like up till now? Are you regretting this decision?
No, I really thought I'd hit burnout before this. Like, I really thought I would hit burnout in the classic age of like 1 through 6. Yeah, I didn't. I voraciously plowed through those games. Like I was shocked. Like I'd sit down and I'd be like, what do I want to play? I know I have this project where I should be playing Final Fantasy, but should and want to are two different things, right? But I was shocked. I'd sit down and be like, I can't wait to play Final Fantasy today. But I think what I've really noticed is like the classic age, like 1 through 6, you can very clearly tell that it's a team of people trying new things. Every game, it has like vastly different systems. The brand is sort of finding its footing. And then you really start to see this development in 4, 5, and 6 of this cinematic narrative quality of storytelling. And then in the PS1 age, you have real hit or miss. You've got 7, which is legendary. You have 8, which is my least favorite Final Fantasy so far. And you have 9, which is a very good game. So now I'm moving on to the PS2 era with 10. And it's the first game with voice acting. As you mentioned,
something so simple,
right? Yeah, but it's crazy how much of a difference it makes. And not all the voice acting is great, but it's good, good enough. You know, I've definitely played more modern games with worse voice acting, but I'm really enjoying 10. The 3D era, they very clearly want to keep some of the series DNA intact while exploring new things and trying to visually show what the series is known for, which is stunning visuals. But I will drop a hot take, and that is that for everyone who says Final Fantasy 13 is a hallway simulator, 10 is the same thing.
Yeah. It really is, especially the temples.
It's literally a straight
goes.
line.
Yeah.
From that game is a straight line. When you have to walk back and collect all those Ject spheres for Auron's limit breaks, it's a straight line. You're walking in a straight line. It doesn't feel like it, and I don't mind it. I've loved 10. And I loved 13, but like I just think it's funny because everybody's like, oh, 13, you just walk in a straight line till the credits. And I was like, that's pretty much what I've done for about 40 hours of 10 right now.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you did say that you liked Death Stranding in the pre-show. We were talking about that.
I'm wearing my Death Stranding hat.
I mean, there you go. Walking simulator is right up your alley.
You might be onto something. See, I will say,
Bruno,
Death Stranding is my favorite game of all time.
I'll take it a step further. I was going to say, he didn't just say he likes it.
It is my favorite game of all time.
He made a bold statement. Man, like that's. I mean, so you're a Kojima guy, so you must have been excited about him announcing a podcast,
The
right?
podcast,
Yeah.
I actually went immediately to Spotify, and they have like an episode 0. I was like, yes. And my friend was like, well, what's it going to be about? And I'm like, it's Kojima. For all I know, it's a cooking show. Like I have no idea.
It's episode Revengeance. Just some ridiculous title. Okay, so Brad, here's my pitch, right? People are going nuts for Potterless right now. Let's make a podcast with Christian and Bruno where Bruno plays like Final Fantasy games for the first time. We'll call it Finally Final Fantasy.
I'm in. I will watch him suffer and I'll coach him through it.
Exactly.
I love how you volunteered Bruno for that. I'm totally here for it.
You can join too. I know Bruno hasn't played one.
What dialogue can I skip? Give me the cliff notes of this.
Well, the good news is there's really no meaningful story until like 4. So
yeah.
So there we go. See, I'm gonna get like
Collect
a
crystals,
text to
beat Big Bad.
speech like mod, so that way it just reads it for me.
Or you can just read
You
my
know what
story
I mean?
summaries on a lifetime of save data, Finally Fantasy.
Oh,
We
see,
just solved the problem.
there we go.
I love it.
Like it. Yep, that was a
Well, we will make sure to
That was a
include that link to your blog, Christian, there in the description and show notes to have people check that out. And it's very much a work in progress. And you like you said, you've got new articles coming out there about weekly, right?
Yep.
So great way to kind of follow your progress.
It's good to hear
yeah.
you still have some vigor in your voice for this. I feel like you said you haven't reached burnout, and then at some point you'll be pot committed to get it finished, right? So it's good to see you and talk with you midway to see that you're still energized and pushing forward for it. Because I would hate for you to get this far along and then go, I'm gonna call it.
We should do
right?
a post when I'm done just to see how devastated I am physically. Like.
Once you
that
start getting to the
before and
center,
after.
it's breaking.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
We'll do some comparisons on the time, like in your total hours spent. I'll be like, oh, that was like,
Yeah.
you know,
So I'm actually tracking
3
like,
weeks,
all the stats.
3 weeks in backpacking in Europe. You know, like
Yeah.
You could have mastered a new instrument, and you chose to do this.
you could.
Yeah.
Rosetta Stone could have taught you 3 new languages.
I've said that many times while playing MMOs of like what I could have done with that time. Speaking of which, please tell me you're skipping 11.
No. So that's
No,
so. This is the
Christian.
rule. I can't skip a game. So I made an
Christian.
error. I said that Final Fantasy VIII was my least favorite Final Fantasy. It's my second least favorite Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy IV: The After Years is the worst game I've ever played.
Oh yeah, I remember you
The
mentioning
worst game
that.
I
Yeah.
have ever played. Not just Final Fantasy, just the worst game I've ever played.
Just
It is
this game.
just garbage. It's like you took a bunch of people who listened to other people talk about RPGs, and they were like, I think I get it. And they made a game,
It's
and they
the
definitely
room.
didn't get
It's the room of video games.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
vignette-based Final Fantasy game. Just let that sink in. It's
Yeah.
like 14 stories that are like 2 hours long. So all your sense of progression and investment, like it's all gone.
Yeah.
And then the first like,
Okay.
4 episodes are like you doing menial things. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's the worst.
Christian, have you played Final Fantasy 11 before?
I have heard horror stories about it. I have seen footage of gameplay. And
Oh,
I have
you
spent
sweet
4
summer
hours
child.
at this point trying to get logged into the game, which is its own mini game of torture.
That's an understatement, Bruno. Okay, what are you defining as completing? How do you complete it? What's your end game?
Well, I have to finish the story content.
Do you know how many expansion? You're done. Okay, look, if you post the Final Fantasy 11 article, you DM me because
Well, so I'm
look,
gonna break
man,
it up.
that
It'll
was
be
like
like-
4 years of like my life, and I got through maybe like a
It'll
third
be
of it
like
before the
base
expansions.
game. They'll have its own article, and then I'll treat each like X pack as its own Final Fantasy game. I'm gonna do 14
was like
the same
in
way.
10th grade when I had to do read the reports on Tale of Two Cities. And we had to do like a page report on each chapter. And I got through like 56 chapters and I was like, there's like 86 more? What?
Yeah.
This is not
Okay.
happening. I am not doing that.
So Fluffy Bunny is in the chat right now, one of our patrons, and he was actually in our static group because back when we played Final Fantasy 11, the game was so unbearably difficult because you can level down in that game,
Yeah.
by the way, if you die. Yeah, that's great to lose progress. Is that you had to like play with the same people because if one rando joined your group and they didn't know what they were doing, it's game over, man. Like, and we maybe got through, and I would say like at least 2,000 hours of gameplay. We maybe got through a third of the story. Again, that was released at the time,
Right.
Christian.
So maybe they may. I mean, even if they didn't fix it, I'm a little excited to hear that. Like, it's one of those things where it's like that's fun to write about, right? Like, if even if it's
Yeah.
a miserable experience or like if I struggle through it, like
It's good content.
right? Like, it's fun to write about it.
It's
Because
great
if they were
content.
all like, I don't know, like I think I wrote about 4, 5, and 6, obviously like back to back, and I was like, I feel like at this point, like 4, 5, and 6 are all fantastic games. So other than a few
Yeah.
gripes, it was like, I feel like I'm just saying this is fantastic, and I can talk about how fantastic it is. But so it's not everything gets to be Final Fantasy IV: The After Years, which you might be asking. Well, I'm on your blog and I don't see an article for Final Fantasy
Right.
IV: The After Years, and that's because I can't bring myself to write it yet.
Yeah. It's the aftermath of
it's so
It's like
bad.
Saved by the
RPGs.
Bell, the college year.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Wow.
The physical agony I would go through to write about it, I'll get there.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, you're gonna feel pain real soon with 11, Christian. That's amazing. I have nothing but respect for it. Best of luck, my friends. We're cheering for you. And yeah, to our listeners and viewers, make sure to check out the link there in the description that we'll have on the VOD and on our episode description if you're listening to the podcast. And yeah, man, where else can people check you out, Christian? Just the website? You got any? I think you have a Twitch
I
channel,
do have
right?
a Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/BarkWolfBacon. I'm also on Twitter, which is Bark_Wolf_Bacon. You might see another BarkWolfBacon. That's also me, but a past me who lost a password.
Oh,
So
We've been
yeah.
there.
yes. It's actually on Instagram for us.
Yeah.
So, but the BarkWolfBacon branding is consistent. It's across all platforms. That's my name. So, yeah, find me on Twitch. I don't stream terribly often, but when I do, it'll be Final Fantasy. So come hang out.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future. Whatever your next life is, make sure to pass on the knowledge that you need to continue playing 11, because that's what you're going to be doing. All right, well, on that note, speaking of things you want to check out, Bruno,
Yeah.
tell them about the website.
Oh, it's awesome. And it's quitthebuild.com. That's right, quitthebuild.com has all your needs for the Quit the Build things that Quit the Build does. That's right, we've got podcasts, we've got a network full of tons of different content creators like Kung Fu Penguin. We've got, oh my gosh. We've got merchandise. We've got a community page where you can check out Discord. And Discord Lord Terry will take you on an adventure through the memes page and maybe down one of its trucking simulators. That's right. He drives a simulated truck across the American roads. Maybe one day he'll join Europe and do Euro Trucking Simulator. Time will tell. But until then, go to quitthebuild.com.
That was great. I just told Terry, by the way, that they just released an air freshener for sim rigs that, like, when you're driving, it will, like, move the air freshener based on, like, what direction you're steering. I said, you no longer have a complete sim rig. You too, Bruno. You need this.
Oh, I need that. You're right. I don't know why or how I'm going to get it up and over.
I don't know. It's worth whatever the cost is.
We need to send Terry a Fromers.
A Fromers?
A guide.
Yeah. If he goes to Europe, we got to send him a Fromers, you know?
Yeah. It'll get him all the great things that he'll want to see from between the places.
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah. You made out with your sister. That's
references.
That's the one
Euro
reference
trip.
Euro trip for you guys out there. Hey.
Yeah. There you go. Well, he hasn't played Euro Truck Simulator yet, but I'm sure eventually it'll happen. He said, I hung an air freshener from my mic boom and I couldn't breathe. Too close, Terry. Oh, boy.
Oh. We're wrapping it up, Nick? Are we there?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's about it for this podcast. Christian, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll keep an eye on you for the blog there, and hopefully an ear on your streams, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been a blast. Love Quit the Build, so very much enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
That's what we love to hear. Bruno.
Yeah.
Send it out. Send it.
All right. It's time for us to head out, but you can always check us out on Quit the Build. Be sure to give us a follow. Until next time, for Nick and Brad, I'm Bruno.
For Bruno and Brad, I'm Nick.
And for Bruno, Nick, I'm Brad.
And for Christian and everyone, peace out. What it do?